Hello and a very warm welcome. I am Gushin Galan and you're watching Firstpost. In the next few minutes, I get you the top 40 updates from around the world, only here on Fast and Factual. Let's get started. We begin in India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva held a phone call discussing U.S. tariffs on their exports and boosting bilateral trade. Both leaders reaffirmed a goal of raising annual trade to over $20 billion by 2030, up from $12 billion in 2024. President Lula confirmed a state visit to India in early 2026 and said BRICS leaders will soon discuss countering U.S. President Donald Trump's levies, which have hit Brazil and India the hardest. The Israeli Security Cabinet has approved Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's plan for Gaza, which involves the Israel Defense Forces' takeover of the war-torn strip. The Israeli Security Cabinet has approved 5 principles for ending the war. According to the plan approved, the IDF will take control of Gaza and provide aid outside combat zones. The plan also focuses on the disarmament of the Hamas and return of all hostages. The plan also suggests an alternative civilian government in Gaza, neither Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority. China accused the Philippines of playing with fire. This is after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said his country would likely be drawn into any conflict between China and the U.S. over Taiwan due to geographical proximity and the large Filipino community there. Beijing urged Manila to respect the One China principle amid escalating tensions in the South China Sea. U.S. President Donald Trump will welcome Armenian Prime Minister and Azerbaijan President to the White House for what he calls a historic peace summit. The meeting aims to end decades of hostilities over the Karabakh region, which Azerbaijan seized in 2023, prompting the mass displacement of over 100,000 ethnic Armenians. The summit will also include bilateral economic agreements aimed at unlocking the South Caucasus potential. The Trump administration has doubled its reward for the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro to $50 million, accusing him of narco-terrorism and conspiring with cartels to traffic fentanyl-laced cocaine into the U.S. First indicted in 2020 during Trump's previous term, Maduro was initially targeted with a $15 million bounty, later raised to $25 million under President Biden. Finnish Foreign Minister Elina Valtonen said she hopes U.S. President Trump will move ahead with sanctions on Russia, arguing they could help end the war in Ukraine. She stated in an interview that the increased supply of weapons to Ukraine is pressuring Moscow to negotiate. Finland, a strong supporter of Kyiv, joined NATO in 2024 after Russia's 2022 invasion. 2 Japanese destroyers, JSI SE and JS Suzunami, arrived in Wellington on Friday. The first such visit in nearly 90 years as part of Tokyo's effort to deepen strategic ties in the South Pacific. The vessels carrying over 500 crew were accompanied by New Zealand's HMNZS Canterbury after participating in military exercises in Sydney with Australia, New Zealand and other countries. Freshly released court evidence alleges Australian woman Erin Patterson, convicted of killing 3 relatives with death cap mushrooms in 2023, also tried to poison her estranged husband on multiple occasions between 2021 and 2022. Police claim she served him tainted pasta, chicken curry and other dishes, causing him severe illness and hospitalization. Gareth Ward, a New South Wales state lawmaker convicted of sexual offences, resigned moments before Parliament was due to vote on expelling him. Ward, jailed and awaiting sentencing in September, was found guilty of assaulting 2 young men in 2013 and 2015. He had previously vowed to keep his seat while in prison. Trade unions, health professionals, educators and citizen groups staged a demonstration in Quito against recent decisions by President Daniel Noboa's government. The protest called for the Constitutional Court to rule on the security law, intelligence law and public integrity law. Demonstrators also opposed the merger of ministers and mass public sector layoffs, de-announcing over 5,000 job cuts so far and warning the figure could reach 60,000 by 2028. On to climate news now. Southern Japan was hit by record-breaking rain that lashed Kagoshima on Friday, triggering evacuation orders for at least 500,000 people. Over 490 millimeters of rain fell in just 24 hours, the highest ever recorded in the region. Rescuers pulled 2 people from a collapsed house while 1 woman remained missing. Authorities cancelled flights and urged residents to move to safer locations without delay. The downpour comes after a stretch of extreme heat across Japan, including a national record of 41.8 degrees Celsius set this week. Flood alert in China's Henan province remains in place after torrential rain flooded streets on Thursday. Authorities issued level 3 flood alerts as 187 millimeters of rain fell in just 6 hours. Floodwaters reached over 65 centimeters in some areas. Firefighters rescued stranded residents and deployed pumps to clear water. Schools, businesses and outdoor activities were suspended. Transport was severely disrupted with the Ring Expressway closed and metro lines partially halted. Wildfires continue to wreak havoc in Canada. The government sent troops and Coast Guards units to its easternmost province of Newfoundland and Labrador to help fight the flames on Thursday. At least 900 people were evacuated as officials warned that hot and dry conditions could worsen the crisis. Nationwide, more than 730 active fires have already burnt over 7.1 million hectares this year. Federal authorities say the damage is among the worst on record. Experts blame the escalating fire seasons on climate change and rising temperatures across the country. A wildfire broke out in northern Turkey's Karabük province on Thursday. This came just over a week after another blaze that raged for at least 6 days was contained. Meanwhile, at least 2 firefighting planes, 12 helicopters, dozens of trucks and hundreds of personnel worked to contain the flames. Smoke billowed from hills as fire neared houses. Locals joined crews to fight the spread. Officials say at least hundreds of wildfires have hit Turkey this summer amid extreme heat and dry winds. Greenpeace activists protested outside the UN plastic pollution talks in Geneva on Thursday. This was followed by a demonstration where activists poured black paint to symbolize an oil spill. The group accused at least hundreds of oil and plastic industry representatives of trying to weaken negotiations. Meanwhile, delegates from at least 180 countries discussed capping plastic production and funding for developing nations. Greenpeace urged governments to prioritize public interest over corporate profits during the final round of talks. On to business and tech news now. OpenAI has launched its highly anticipated ChatGPT-5 model powering the popular ChatGPT. GPT-5 will be available to over 700 million ChatGPT users, aiming to drive enterprise adoption. The release comes as big tech rivals pour billions into AI data centers. Alphabet, Meta, Amazon and Microsoft are set to spend nearly $400 billion on AI this year. Texas-based firm Fintech has sued Apple. It is alleging the iPhone maker stole mobile wallet technology created by a firm which Fintech bought in 2014. Fintech said Apple held talks in 2011-2012 under non-disclosure agreements, but instead used the tech to launch Apple Pay in 2014. Apple Pay is now used on hundreds of millions of iPhones, iPads, watches and Macs, generating fees for banks and payment networks. The suit also alleges Apple unfairly profited from the stolen technology. Meta has lined up $29 billion to fund a massive new AI-focused data center in Louisiana. US bond giant PIMCO will handle $26 billion in debt, while Blue Owl Capital will put in $3 billion in equity. The financing push is part of Meta's strategy to share costs for AI infrastructure with outside partners. Last week, the company said it would sell $2 billion in data center assets under its co-development plan. Yomiuri Shimbun, one of the world's biggest newspapers, is suing US AI firm Perplexity in Tokyo. This is for alleged copyright violations. It claims Perplexity used 120,000 of its articles between February and June without permission, and the newspaper is now seeking $14.7 million in damages. The paper also accuses Perplexity of free riding on its journalism. Donald Trump has urged Intel CEO Lip Bhutan to step down immediately, citing alleged ties to China. Trump claimed Tan was highly conflicted due to investments in firms linked to China's military. Tan, appointed in March to revive the struggling U.S. chip pioneer, has received billions in federal support. The demand is a rare presidential call for a corporate leader's resignation. Major U.S. retailers including Walmart, Amazon, Target and Gap have stopped orders from India. This follows a new 50% tariff on Indian goods imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump. Exporters say the higher costs could slash U.S.-bound orders by up to half. It could lead to $4 to $5 billion in losses. Many top Indian exporters get 40 to 70% of their sales from the U.S. market. Reports say the U.S. has imposed tariffs on 1 kilogram gold bars. It is a surprise move that could disrupt global bullion trade. The July 31st customs ruling reclassified the bars under tariff liable codes. The measure could hit Switzerland, the world's top gold refiner. It is also a major U.S. supplier which already faces a 39% duty. Gold prices rose in Asia on Friday as markets absorbed the impact of the new U.S. trade measures. SoftBank shares jumped 13% Friday, their best in 5 years. This came after the bank posted strong quarterly earnings. The firm posted $2.87 billion profit for April to June. It was far above forecasts and a big turnaround from last year's loss. The stock rally extends a 4-day winning streak with shares already at record highs. Shares in Crocs have slumped nearly 30%. It was the biggest one-day drop in almost 15 years after the firm warned of falling sales. The American rubber clog maker expects Q3 revenue to drop 10% year-on-year as U.S. shoppers curb discretionary spending. CEO Andrew Rees said fewer customers are visiting Crocs stores amid cautious consumer behavior. The sell-off leaves the stock at its lowest level in nearly 3 years. The Bank of England has cut its base rate by 0.25 points to 4%. The interest is now at its lowest since March 2023. The decision was passed after a tight 5-4 vote. It is the fifth cut since last August, but comes with a warning that rising food prices could push inflation back to 4%. Moving to sports, today we begin with chess. World number 4 Argun Erigaisi beat American Awanda Liang in the round 1 of the Chennai Grand Masters. Arjun played with white pieces, was largely in control during his 49-move win. In tennis, Canadian teenager Victoria Mboko beat 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka 2-6, 6-4, 6-1, capping a fairy tale run at the Canadian Open with her first ever WTA title. The 18-year-old denied Osaka her first tour-level title since the 2021 Australian Open, wearing down the Japanese star. Mboko, who was ranked outside the top 300 at the start of this season, is now projected to rise to 34th in the world. Ben Shelton beat Russia's Karen Khachanov 6-7, 6-4, 7-6 in the finals of Toronto Masters. With this, the 22-year-old will rise one place to 6 in the world rankings, overtaking 24-time Grand Slam singles champion Novak Djokovic in the rankings. And Venus Williams was beaten in straight sets by Jessica Monero in the first round of Cincinnati Open. The 7-time Grand Slam champion was beaten in just 87 minutes. The 45-year-old was competing for the second time in 3 weeks after returning to the WTA Tour in Washington in her first tournament in 16 months. In football, Kenya came down from a goal down to hold Angola to a 1-1 draw in the African Nations Championship League stage match. Angola's Joe Pasanian-Sia struck after only 7 minutes. The Kenyans equalized by converting a penalty. Kenya had to play with 10 men for 70 minutes after Marvin Napier was booked for a high challenge. Bayern Munich's Harry Kane scored his first goal against his former team Tottenham Hotspur in a friendly match. Bayern romped past the Spurs 4-0 at home. Kane put Bayern in the lead after 12 minutes with a composed penalty box finish. Kingsley Coman added the home side's second goal. Bayern teenagers Leonard Karl and John Kwesi Asare both scored to complete the one-sided victory. Manchester United have reportedly agreed a deal worth up to $99 million to sign striker Benjamin Sesko. Newcastle were also interested in signing the Slovenian, possibly to replace Alexander Isak, a target for Liverpool. Michael Antonio's 10-year spell at West Ham is over. This after the club decided not to offer the 35-year-old a new contract. The forward has not played for West Ham since being involved in a serious car accident in December, which left him with a badly broken leg. Antonio is the club's all-time top goal scorer in the Premier League and netted 83 times in total during 323 appearances. In cricket, the fate of Bengaluru's Chinnaswamy Stadium hosting the ICC Women's ODI World Cup matches remains uncertain. The local cricket body is yet to get the permission from state authorities to hold the matches. The uncertainty comes after a stampede in June claimed 11 lives during Bengaluru's IPL title win celebrations. The stadium was supposed to host the World Cup opener on September 30 and a semi-final. Pakistani cricketer Haider Ali was briefly arrested in the UK's Manchester over rape accusations. Following this, the Pakistan Cricket Board has suspended him pending an investigation. The 24-year-old Haider played 2 ODIs and 35 T20s internationals for Pakistan. And finally, from the world of showbiz, Kapil Sharma's Caps Cafe in Canada was targeted for the second time in a month after multiple shots were fired early Thursday. Gangster Goldie Dillon, linked to the Lawrence Bishnoi gang, allegedly claimed responsibility in an online post, warning of further action in Mumbai if the comedian failed to respond to their calls. Surrey police confirmed no injuries, though the cafe sustained damage. A similar shooting occurred at the same location on July 10th. Selena Gomez has shared that her 16-year friendship with Taylor Swift began when both were dating Jonas Brothers, Gomez with Nick and Swift with Joe. Speaking on a podcast, Gomez said the best thing they got from those relationships was each other. The pair, who met as teenagers, have remained close throughout the years, continuing to publicly support each other's careers. Paramount Pictures has secured High Side. It is a motocross-themed heist thriller reuniting Timothée Chalamet with director James Mangold after their work on the Bob Dylan biopic A Complete Unknown. Chalamet will play a disgraced former racer drawn into a series of bank robberies by his estranged brother. Described as Heat Meets Hell or High Water, the project is produced by Chernin Entertainment with a script by Jamie Oliveira. Disney Plus has axed its Goosebumps series after 2 seasons, despite ranking up over 118 million views hours globally. Produced by Sony Pictures Television, the show based on R.L. Steen's horror books premiered in 2023 and delivered 2 anthology-style seasons. Sony now plans to shop the series to other platforms with a fresh creative approach. And Peacock is debuting The Paper on September 4, a mockumentary from the makers of The Office. The series follows the quirky staff of struggling Midwestern newspaper. Domhnall Gleeson stars as the new editor-in-chief trying to revive the paper while sharing office space with a toilet paper company. That's all for today. Thank you for joining us. I am Gushin Galan and we'll see you right back here very soon. Until then, stay informed and stay tuned to Firstpost.
Firstpost reports from the world's second largest